Welcome, and thank you for joining me for another random gaming news, where today we have a few quick mentions I think you might be interested in, some sad news about the creator of the Konami code, those sweet games that you're going to be getting from Sony and Microsoft this March, and so much more. Check out the links in the description for all that sweet social media stuff. Please share this video to help out the channel the most. Hit the like button if you did like today's video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on that bell icon, and let's go ahead and start the show. First up here for the quick mentions, let's go over that new Samurai Jack game that's going to be coming out from the Adult Swim Game Studios. Now, if you don't know who Samurai Jack is, he's just a samurai that got shifted through time who has to go and beat down one of the big bad guys in order to get back to his own reality. So it's kind of cool to see that he's getting a hack and slash style game, which I really feel like that fits the style of genre that they're going for in the show and everything. If they were going to make some kind of game, a turn-based system would be kind of too slow for it, but hack and slash action and RPG, that's actually something that is pretty interesting to me. So I'd love to see what actually comes of this, because we didn't get much in the way of like what the actual game is. Only about 4 minutes of actual gameplay was really shown off from IGN. There were some other stuff about it. I'll leave some links in the description if you guys are interested in checking out anything. Next, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with Stardew Valley, because the creator of Stardew Valley, Concerned Ape, earlier a couple weeks ago said that he was actually going to be coming out with a couple of other games, and he's trying to figure out where they actually fit in the Stardew Valley universe. And it would seem that now with the most recent update, the 1.5 update that's coming, we're going to get some more free content added to it. As Concerned Ape himself did say, thanks for everybody for the Stardew Valley 4-year anniversary wishes. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to another great year. Now that 1.4 is out on all intended platforms, I'd like to announce that there will be another free content update, 1.5. It's currently in the works. Now, I thoroughly did enjoy Stardew Valley whenever it first came out. It's one of those things that I feel like it's hard to explain and make it sound fun to actually play Stardew Valley, but it's one of those games, if you go and experience it, you will love playing it. So if you haven't experienced Stardew Valley, you can get it on anything. You can get it on PC, Xbox, PS4, mobile platforms. It is on anything. And I highly encourage anybody that loves these little management style games to go and check it out. It's very addicting. You will lose hundreds of hours of your life. I have. Now, lastly, for the quick mentions, let's go over what's going on with the GOG platform. So, Good Old Games, that platform that's made by CD Projekt Red, they actually did a new policy change where you can refund games within a 30-day period, and no matter how long you've actually played it. And it's one of those things that a lot of people are freaking out, thinking that GOG is going to go down, this is going to bring the company under, but I really don't think that it will. I think it's going to be one of those things that people are going to like a little bit more, because places like Walmart do 30-day return policies. Hell, sometimes you can take that shit back 2 years later and still get your money for it. So I really don't think that this is anything that anybody should really be freaking out. I really think it's something more pro-consumer, which CD Projekt Red is one of those companies that is more pro-consumer than other companies. They even put out their own statement on the matter. We're monitoring the effects of the current update to make sure no one is using this policy to hurt the developers that put their time and heart into making great games. We may refuse refunds in such individual cases. We'd also let you know about any future adjustments in the voluntary refund policy in advance. And like I said, it's not a very bad policy that GOG has with their actual, new refund policy of being 30 days and then you can return it, because I feel like if it fits one of those categories where it's mainly used for people that, maybe put a lot of time into a game and didn't really find it very enjoyable, and now they're able to backtrack on that, put their money into another game that they may find more enjoyable. It's keeping consumers on their platform to do the things that they want the consumers to do, and that is purchase other games. Because if you're happy about, one purchase, you're going to purchase another one. If you're unhappy and you return that, you can then purchase a different one on that same platform. So it is something that I feel like it's going to work out a lot better in GOG's favor, because it's more consumer friendly and people will start noticing that. GOG really doesn't have a big stake in the market as it is, as they only made about $7 grand last year, something around that. I'll leave some links in the description of how much GOG actually came out in profit with their storefront, but they did have to lay off people recently because of it. So it'd be an interesting experiment to see nonetheless, and we'll have to just wait and see what unfolds and what comes out from these analytics that GOG is, keeping track of. Now it's on to some of that sad news, like I said, about the creator of the Konami code, Hashimoto. He actually passed away recently at the age of 61, and it was one of those things that was kind of sad to hear, because the Konami code is one of those codes that has, left its mark in a cultural standing in not only video games, but media as a whole, because this code code, the up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, has been put into a lot of different games. And not only that, I think you can actually do it in the Chrome browser. There's a few other places that you can actually put the Konami code and it does a few things for you. The reason why the Konami code came to be is because Hashimoto was the producer and developer on Grandis. He had to have some way to make it easier for his developers to actually make it through the game so they could test out the whole game and see how it all worked. And somehow the code was actually just left in the game as a byproduct of that, and people found it and started using it, and thus we have now the Konami code. And I really feel like, this is something that is really sad. It's sad to see anybody die, but such a figure in the video game industry, even though it hasn't been a whole lot as of late, but it is nice to see that people are still, reaching out and saying, how sad it actually is that Hashimoto's gone. There's been a lot of tweets over on Twitter kind of showing their love for him. A lot of people have made videos of the Konami code and what it was all about. If you are interested, I'm sure you can find those very easily. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of tidbit that, Hashimoto, the creator of the Konami code, is, he's now gone, and there's not really much more to say about that. So let's go over those games that you can actually pick up from Microsoft and Sony from your Games with Gold or PSN networks, PSN Plus, that you can get here this March. We'll start off with the Xbox side of things, where we have Batman: The Evil Within and Castlevania 2: Lords of Shadow. You can pick up the Batman game starting March 1st, same with Castlevania, but Castlevania only goes until the 15th, while Batman: The Evil Within goes until the 31st. And then we have Shantae Half Hero Genie, that starts on March 16th to April 15th, and then Sonic Generations going from the 16th of March to March 31st. So, it's just a good lineup from Microsoft right there. I feel like, I like Castlevania 2: Lords of Shadow, and I believe they gave it away the first one, it was like October or August of last year they gave it away for us, so be interesting to see what they're going to do next month, but I do like this lineup. But let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit and talk about the PSN Plus and what you're going to be getting over there, because I feel like that's a really good lineup, even though you're only getting 2 games this month, both coming on the 3rd of March, going all the way to April 4th. You can pick up Shadows of the Colossus and Sonic Forces. So those are actually really 2 good games, because Sonic Forces is a great 3D Sonic platforming game, while Shadows of the Colossus, the remake that they did, I thoroughly enjoyed that game on the PS2. I have not played the remake of it, but this is interesting to see that they are giving away a game that is a first-party title that is in and of themselves made by a studio that Sony owns and put out, and is an actually great caliber of a game. If you haven't played it, it's basically a boss rush style game where you're going up against these different colossus. There's 16 of them that you either climb or find some way to get on them to hit the weak spot over and over again until you can bring them down. And that's where the challenge lies, is climbing up to that weak spot, because once you get there, it's not too terribly hard once you get to the weak spot, but it can be hard getting to that weak spot. So it'd be interesting to see what Sony's actually going to give away next month, considering they only really gave away 2 games, but I feel like Shadow of the Colossus is well more than enough worth 2 games in and of itself. Be interested in what you guys think about those games down in the comments below. Now, before we get into my pick of the week, let's go ahead and go over what the Project G.G is and where it's coming from. So Platinum Games put out a trailer recently and a statement explaining what Project G.G is, or what exactly they're going to be doing with it, because they didn't really give too much of what the game actually is, but it does seem pretty cool. It seems like a Ultraman style game where you can go up against big bad beast and you make your own mecha monster guy. I don't know, it was a pretty awesome trailer. That's all we really got was a cinematic trailer. But they, like I said, they did put out a statement which kind of explains, we've made a wide variety of games throughout our history, sometimes based on existing properties like Nier Ultima, sometimes wholly original stories like Bayonetta and Astral Chains. Our work has found a core of passionate fans who trust us to deliver high quality action games. But Platinum Games has thus far only been a developer. That means we make the games and that's it. All of our titles up until now have been made under contracts with corporations and funding from the publishers who distribute them. Of course, everyone at Platinum Games and I are extremely grateful for the relationships that we've made with all of you throughout the games we've made so far. But ultimately, all of those games belong to publishers. Any in all decisions about how those games are promoted, how their content is used, and so on, are entirely up to the publishers. As a creator, it's hard not to think of my games as my children. After all, it takes a lot of work to raise them up, and a lot of love too. However, once they're done, any choices about them are entirely out of my hands. So for example, no matter how many times people tell me, you should make a sequel to this game, or I'd love to see that on the consoles, there's nothing I can do about it. So it just seems that up until now that Platinum Games has been solely a developer, as they mentioned. They didn't have any full decisions on what their games were going to, have to do afterwards or anything along those lines. So it was something that, now that they have the backing of Tencent and can be a publisher / developer, they can put out their own IPs. And that's what Project G.G seems to be, as they further explain. Which brings us to Project G.G. That's a working title, by the way. Project G.G is different. Unlike any of the games we've made so far, it's going to be a 100% Platinum Games title, for everything from its setting and characters to its game design and story to how it's promoted. Platinum Games is in full control. And I don't think this is a bad thing. I know that Tencent is one of those big corporations, the biggest in the world actually for video games and that kind of thing, but I really don't think that Platinum Games making their own IP is such a bad thing. They've made a lot of great titles, like they said in the past, like Nier Ultima, Bayonetta, and Astral Chains. I've played all 3 of those titles and love all 3 of those titles, so it is very awesome to see that Platinum Games is going to have their own creative decision on making that style of game, but how they want to do it, which is something that is, kind of really cool. Like, I really think it's something that I'd like to see more smaller studios that become bigger like that do their themselves, where they're not beholden to any publishers. They're only beholden to themselves, and then they self-publish the games. I know it's something that's hard to do because publishing a game takes a lot of money. You got to promote the game, you got to get it out to people, you got to make sure that it's advertising friendly. All those kind of things go into making it money off of the actual game itself. So I understand, why it's taken them so long to get up to this point, but it is cool to see that Platinum Games did get to this point. And they didn't give a whole lot of information on, when this game's going to be released, what the actual game is, or anything along those lines. But from the trailer, it looks, like I said, like it's going to be something more like an Ultraman style game, because he saved a little puppy by growing super huge. And actually, I'm not thoroughly convinced that he did save that dog, because in the trailer, it still didn't get out from underneath the debris, and he made himself into a big giant thing, and then he's going to have a beast charging at him. I think that dog's toast. Until they give us some confirmation on that, I think that dog got killed in that trailer. But rather than ending on a sad note, let's go ahead and move on to my pick of the week. Now, this is my favorite part of the video, where I actually get to pick my favorite game that I've been playing this week, tell you a little bit about it and what I think about it here. So that game is actually going to be Tim. I got back into that game. I tweeted out the roadmap that they had and how it's going to suck up a lot of my time, and it has sucked up a lot of my extra time. Any extra time that I actually do get, I have been putting it into playing that game and collecting more Tim and trying to beat what extra stuff they've already put into the game. But the roadmap that they show is pretty promising, and it looks like by spring of next year they're going to be having a full launch for the game and coming out on consoles. So it'd be interesting to see what actually is coming from Tim, how it's all going to come together, because they have made like weekly resets for their Safari area for you to go and catch rare Tim in the game. So that is adding a little bit more of an MMO kind of feel to it, where you are having that weekly reset and having to go back and do things. Not only that, you can release Tim, and if you release a certain amount, you get a certain thing inside the game, and that also resets weekly. So they are doing great stuff like that to actually bring me back to the game, because this is a Pokemon game that I've always wanted. Where Pokemon Sword and Shield, don't get me wrong, it is a good game. I played all the way through it. It felt like a little grindy towards the end, but I did play through it. It just hasn't really given me a reason to come back. It doesn't really hook me in that MMO style way that Tim has, where it's actually given me some other reasons to come back other than just Giomaxing Pokemon or fighting other trainers or finishing up my Tim list. It's actually given me, certain missions to go and do, certain release points to do, so catching them and releasing them and making sure that you're doing all this other stuff and keeping all this in line fits perfectly into what I'd like a MMO-styled Pokemon game to be. And let me know if you guys have been playing Tim. I don't want to rant too long about it because, I want to make sure that this video is a little bit shorter so that way we can get on to some other stuff. But if you guys have been playing Tim, let me know down in the comments below. And, well, that's my video for today. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, please leave your thoughts about anything down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Also, hit that like button. Let me know that you did enjoy today's video. Make sure to check out the links in the description for all that social media stuff, because I did make a new Facebook page that I think you guys might be interested in, because it's going to be expanding a little bit more on what this channel is as far as, making it more as random nerd news versus random gaming news. So that way I can cover a little bit other topics on some other sources on some different places. So go ahead and check that out in the description below. Also, make sure that you are subscribing and sharing this video, because if you share the video, that does help us out the most. And if you are subscribed, hit that bell icon so that way you guys can be notified of when I make my next video. And as always, I have been Tasty. This has been Random Gaming News, and have a wonderful fucking gaming night.